Let's get educated. That's why we're here, to bring you the stories impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses. It's time for a little education.
Well, hello everyone and welcome. I am Katie Petrick, joined by Mr. David Worldview Matters Fiorazzo.
Hello.
And it's Thursday time.
Yes, it's Thursday. Yep.
You've had a busy week, David. What have you done so far with Worldview Matters this whole week?
Monday we had Dr. Andy Woods. We talked about how law schools, I should say, are trying to abandon the Constitution. Tuesday we heard from Scott Schara about his daughter losing her at a hospital because of COVID protocols. Yesterday, former homosexual George Carneal wrote a book, From Queer to Christ. We had a great conversation. And of course, this morning, John Haller talked about biblical prophecy, some stories that are just really read the Bible and you go, wow, this is happening very fast. We're getting to the end. But a great week. You can always subscribe, of course, worldviewmatters.tv. I thank you for those who have already subscribed to get those emails. We will not bombard your email inbox. Just maybe Monday and Friday, I think, is all it is right now. We have to also remind you that we need you to check out Rumble. And that's rumble.com, Freedom Project. We just launched, Freedom Project did, on that platform. So if you are a Rumble fan, YouTube, you might get deleted. You might get your account taken away. But Rumble, they actually allow free and even, quote, controversial speech. So
stop it, David.
Yeah,
they
really,
do?
They do.
Well then, that's quite delightful.
So follow. Now, all right, so what we're going to do now is one of my favorite times of the week. That means Thursday. Mm-hmm. It is Thursday, right?
It is still Thursday.
Keep track of the days. So we're going to check in with Mr. Alex Newman to see what story he's got for us this week. Hello, Alex.
Thanks, guys. Great to be here. And so, wow, I could not be more encouraged by this news. The dominoes are falling on the reading quackery that really crippled several generations of young Americans. Truly incredible. The Teachers College at Columbia University has been kind of the bastion of this quackery, the nerve center of the machine that pushed this evil into our schools for over half a century now. And now it's all crumbling. Earlier this month, the Teachers College at Columbia University, they announced in a press release, quietly released though, that they were shutting down their so-called Reading and Writing Project, which should have been more accurately called Making Sure Children Don't Ever Read or Write Project. They also got rid of its tenured ringleader, the literacy professor, Lucy Calkins. I guess she's tenured, so they didn't technically get rid of her. They sent her on indefinite sabbatical, but she's gone anyway. And at the same time, and certainly the two are related, school districts all across the United States, including New York City, where Columbia University is, are dropping her quack reading programs. Unfortunately for the victims of this quackery, there have not been any apologies. There have not been any plans announced to help provide compensation or restitution to the victims, or even to teach them how to read. But folks, really, this is so encouraging. So we've talked many times. I've spoken with you many times about the difference between teaching reading and this quackery. So teaching reading, you teach kids that each letter is a symbol. Each symbol stands for one or more sounds, like a P makes a P sound, right? Well, in the quack methods pushed by Calkins and company, they're actually just teaching kids to memorize words and guess at the words that they don't know and use context clues and look at the pictures. I mean, it's not really reading, it's quackery, right? And what happens is these kids then get reading disabilities, dyslexia, etc. This stuff has literally been debunked since the mid-1800s when Horace Mann tried it out in the government schools he was building in Massachusetts. And, of course, progressive godfather of education, John Dewey, an actual socialist, founder of the humanist religion, actually resurrected this quackery back in the early 1900s, and he knew full well the damage it would do. He actually started an experimental school at the University of Chicago with Rockefeller money, turned a bunch of kids into illiterates, and said that'll be perfect, and then moved over to Teachers College, where he helped promote this evil all over the country. So anyways, the announcement from Teachers College, it was a big, giant word salad, meaning nothing, diversity, inclusion, equity, blue. And then, by the way, moving forward, Teachers College must foster more conversations and collaboration among different evidence-based approaches to literacy and ensure our programs are aligned with the needs of teachers and districts looking to partner. So there you go. They realize that the fraud is coming to an end. Now, it's like a few publications wrote about this. Psychology Today, which is hardly a right-wing conservative publication, they described what was happening at Columbia's Teachers College like this. It said it was breaking the shackles of 4 decades of what the new administration views as past adherence to flawed reading philosophy and ideology divorced from cognitive science. The author there, Dr. J. Richard Gentry, described as an expert in childhood literacy. He says the impetus for these sweeping changes comes not only from boots on the ground teachers, but also parents who say they're fed up with schools where their teachers do not learn to read. Wonder why they'd be fed up with that. I can't imagine why. They say that some reading teachers lament that they were not prepared by higher education, or in some cases were given incorrect methodologies. Duh. Universities are hearing their voices. So he goes on to say that there's also intense political pressure to bring up the failing reading scores. And he talks about current science. This is not current science. I mean, since phonics has existed for thousands of years, that's how you teach reading in a phonetic writing system. But he says, anyway, the current science shows that explicit, systematic, and phonics and spelling instruction is how children learn to read. Duh, right? I mean, you didn't need a reading expert to tell you that. Now, the far-left New York Times picked up the story. They said it marks the end of an era for Teachers College and perhaps another setback for balanced literacy, the embattled movement in which Dr. Calkins is one of several prominent leaders. Okay. Yes, she is one of several prominent leaders. And they add that it comes amid intense political pressure on schools of education to better align teacher training with research. So the New York Post, Rupert Murdoch propaganda outlet, they celebrated this. They said this change is good, but it doesn't do anything for the generations of American children who were damaged by this. They say the least we can do is call out the damage done, and we agree, right? This is horrific what has been done to tens of millions of Americans. Innocent Americans who now are reading disabled for their whole lives. So it looks like the education establishment is finally surrendering on this front after several generations of dumbing down Americans with this quackery, turning them into functional illiterates. At the top of the pyramid, they knew what they were doing. John Dewey knew what he was doing. His disciples knew what they were doing. Your average classroom teacher, of course, had no idea. But folks, this cannot be the last word, right? From Dewey to his operatives to the Marxist Frankfurt School, Teachers College has been really one of the main organizations responsible, along with the U.S. Department of Education, the NEA, with John Dewey served as honorary life president. They've been one of the main organizations responsible at Teachers College for dumbing down and indoctrinating and weaponizing generations of Americans against their families, their countries, and their church, and of course, making them into illiterates, so they couldn't read their Bibles, they couldn't read a history book. We cannot just allow this, right? It's time for accountability, and I think Miss Calkins needs to be brought in somewhere under oath and ask some real questions about what she knew, when she knew it, and why she continued this quackery. Thanks, guys.
Last year, the American Library Association elected Emily Drabinski, a self-described Marxist lesbian, president of the ALA. At the recent Socialism 2023 conference in Chicago, Drabinski asked attendees to turn public schools and libraries into centers of radical agitation and use them for, quote, socialist organizing. On one of the panels at the conference, there was a call for an alliance between pro-abortion activists and transgender forces to fight against Christians. This is just part of the ideological revolution we're witnessing in America. Our cultural institutions have been hijacked by God-hating radicals. Parents, you now have to be aware of the fact public schools and libraries have been victims of a Marxist takeover. I'm David Fiorazzo, and this is Christ and Culture. Writer Karlin Borisenko went undercover at the largest socialist conference in the country, where she caught ALA President Emily Drabinski saying explicitly that libraries and public schools need to be sites of socialist organizing. Drabinski said when she was around 14, she first began to identify as a lesbian after reading a library book about two women having, quote, fantastic queer sex in a field, end quote. A library book. For the record, the ALA publicly attempted to distance itself from Drabinski's statements, saying in their statement that the ALA does not align with, endorse, or promote the political beliefs, values, or ideologies of any one individual, including its elected leaders, end quote. So why elect a radical to head up the American Library Association? Liberty Sentinel and Freedom Project's Alex Newman has been exposing leftist agendas for decades. He writes that the latest ALA boss has become, quote, notorious for hating parents, families, Christians, and anyone else who stands in the way of indoctrinating children. Alex responded to these reports out of the Socialist Conference on the Newman Report. Watch.
Taxpayer funding is being weaponized here, and it's being weaponized to foment a revolution against us, the people paying for this, the people footing the bill for this kind of dangerous extremism. It's time for the library systems to leave the ALA, and it's time for the government to stop turning our children into Marxists and revolutionaries using these government schools. The system needs to be shut down.
Shut them down. I agree. The future of our country is on the line, as he also said later, and this is just one of the symptoms of a much deeper issue of moral and spiritual decay. Now, it doesn't help matters that fewer American citizens seem to be paying attention and speaking up as the radicals have grown bolder and louder. At the conference, by the way, American Library Association President Emily Drabinski spoke on a panel that discussed how teachers could instruct children on critical race theory, even in school districts that have banned it. The Democrat Socialists of America, DSA, supported the Chicago conference, of course, which also featured panels on the best practices for developing socialist programming for kids, abolishing police, and keeping U.S. borders open. Just like faithful radicals, the conference advocated for abolishing the family, replacing mothers and fathers with collective parenting, and forming a movement to protect children's right to engage in prostitution. You heard that right. Other panels at the Socialist Conference included the following: kids as comrades, abortion, race, and the 1%, sex work, policing, and border abolition, Lenin, catastrophe and revolution, longer road to a Green New Deal, and many, many more. Talk about fundamentally transforming the United States of America. By the way, when Barack Obama said that the Democrats were in the process of doing just that in 2008, few people took him seriously. Now we see some of the fruit. But education has been part of this plan all along. Apparently, some of the sessions were not live streamed while others were. This was on purpose so the socialist organizers could speak more freely. Now, more states should follow the example of the Montana State Library Commission, which recently called the ALA's, quote, far left-leaning ideologies and its conflict with the Constitution, which, by the way, forbids association with an organization led by a Marxist, the ALA. But the Montana State Library Commission explained in its decision to cut ties with the far left, saying these agendas have no place in our public schools and libraries. They rightly declared the American Library Association, quote, has not only turned its back on families, parental rights, and American values, it has turned its back on America itself. I agree. State by state, friends. By the way, Borisenko was banned from the conference, so she was there incognito, writing, and using a different name. And in another one of her posts, she exposed another radical. Check this out. Quote, meet Dr. Mary Bowman. Mary is an assistant professor of nursing at DePaul University and a speaker at the Socialism 2023 conference. And Mary wants to destroy the nuclear biological family through sexual liberation and queer relationships. They're not hiding it anymore, friends. Universities have been pumping out Marxists, socialists, and social justice activists for decades. And we've been trying to warn about this. And now we're seeing more of the rotten, disgusting results. For example, Joy Pullman at The Federalist wrote that in 2022, last year, the annual American Library Association conference was attended by over 21,000 people. It featured workshops on drag queens and queering elementary schools. Libraries learned how to push agendas and to sidestep objections to the drag queen story hour. One workshop was titled Creating Queer Inclusive Elementary School Library Programming. Elementary school, ages 5 through 10. Let that sink in. This and more, with the help of American tax dollars, of course. Now, at the Washington Stand, Ben Johnson writes that Drabinski promotes the subversion of, quote, normal family types, and that before she was elected ALA president, she announced her plan to use the position to, quote, build collective power for the public good. She promised at the time, as ALA president, I will direct resources and opportunities to a diverse cross-section of the association, by the way, dispersing $56 million in revenue, quote, on the basis of race, gender, sexuality, national origin, spoken language, and disability, end quote. It's no wonder Drabinski gained the endorsement of education radical herself, Randi Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers, and a close Biden ally, of course, who Weingarten proudly boasted, quote, Emily Drabinski knows how to organize and mobilize, right, with the closed communist clenched fist. Now, at this point, come on, parents should no longer be surprised when their son or daughter comes home from high school or college radicalized, having an anti-Christian and even a Marxist worldview. We've been warned. God bless you, and keep speaking the truth about things that matter.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on pristine quality bedding, towels, slippers, signature pillows, and much more when you use the code EDUCATED. That's EDUCATED. Educated. Support this show and a great American company.
Welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. I am Dr. Duke, and I am joined today by Vicki McKenna. Vicki, it is nice to be with you.
It's wonderful to be here, Duke. Just wonderful. We have wonderful things to talk about. It's just nice. It's all happy. Everything's fine.
Hey, the world's a great place because Christianity now has been colonized by drag queens, and we're all so much better for it. Yes, we have and this is going on in Texas, for the love of God. We have a Texas church that uses drag queens and blesses drag queens during an LGBTQ Christian service. No more words. Watch the video.
We recognize that all people are made in the loving image of God, no matter who they are, how they dress and express themselves, or who they love. We celebrate this divine diversity and commit to lifting up the voices of the LGBTQ+ community and creating spaces where everyone can thrive.
Drag queens are often targets of hate and violence, but we know that they are powerful and resilient people who show us what it means to be truly authentic and expressive. We honor their strength and pledge to be allies to the drag community, recognizing their full humanity and their incredible contributions to our world. We embrace radical inclusivity and work to dismantle systems of oppression, unite against all forms of hate, prejudice, and intolerance, in order to build a world that affirms and celebrates every person's unique identity and uniqueness.
What in the hell? Name one contribution drag queens have made to this world. Just one. One serious contribution. Number one and number two.
Serious. Hold on.
Yeah, and seriously. One more thing.
Can't be bawdy burlesque shows.
Yeah, no, that doesn't count.
Bad jokes, bad
Nope.
puns. Those don't count. Okay.
Stealing white face for women, right? Putting black face on. Right. Now, my second question, Vicki, is obvious. That is not a Christian creed. That is a creed to the God of LGBTQ. They are the center of the religion. They are Christ. They are to whom we owe our allegiance and our prayers.
Well, and let's not, and I'm not sure if people are familiar with this story, they were doing that for the blasphemous anti-Catholic, anti-Christian group called Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, one of whose members was recently arrested for public masturbation. This is a group that has a pole dancing performance where there is a gay faux Christ who is on a cross while a non-binary gay man slithers and bumps and grinds and does a pole dance. And this is the organization that Texas church chose to offer up a special pledge and creed to. It's a piece of what is happening here. We'll talk about a story of rewriting Jesus so that Jesus affirms transsexualism. Here is a story from just about 2 months ago from the World Economic Forum. Yuval Harari, who was giving a speech at the World Economic Forum, said, it's going to be awesome when AI can write a new Bible to establish a, quote, unified and correct religion. So that's where we are. And that's where we are without churches pushing back, without pastors pushing back and bishops pushing back and priests pushing back. This is where we are. And so, now religion and God are whatever you want religion and God to be. You get to write your own Bible. You get to create your own creed. You're going to go to hell, but you know what? You're gonna affirm yourself, and you're gonna give yourself a free pass for encouraging sick, mentally ill people to mutilate themselves, harm themselves in the process. You'll feel real good about it until the very end, I think.
There is much more to talk about, but for the rest of the story, check out the full episode of The Dr. Duke Show.
If you have a smartphone, tablet, Roku, or Apple TV, consider downloading the FreedomProject Media app. It's 100% free and includes all of our weekly shows, plus lecture series, archive programs, and award-winning animated videos for families like the Presidential Minute, Battles of America, and Heroes of the West. Don't rely on the social media giants to keep you informed. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app from your app store and allow notifications. And we'll let you know when a new video is ready.
All right, friends, the great question of whether we're alone in the universe has clearly been answered. Thanks to our friends across the southern border, if you believe it. Mexican politicians were recently shown the supposed corpses of two mummified aliens that a UFO expert has deemed not from this planet.
The alleged alien bodies consist of hands with 3 fingers and elongated heads, similar to, I would say, the movie E.T. by Steven Spielberg, back from the 1980s. Now, they were apparently discovered in Peru in 2017, which is 6 years ago. Okay.
Why would they
The corpses are estimated to be 700 and 1,800 years old, with x-rays showing mysterious eggs inside of one of the bodies. All right, well, if you'd like to, take a look.
Are these proof of extraterrestrial life? The alleged remains of non-human beings were displayed in Mexico during its first congressional hearing on UFOs. These beings were reportedly found in Peru in 2017 and are said to be at least 700 years old. This is the first time it is presented in such a form, and I think there is a clear demonstration that we are dealing with non-human specimens that are not related to any other species in our world, and that any scientific institution can investigate it. The hearings are being conducted to decide on an aerial space protection law. If passed, it would reportedly make Mexico the first country in the world to acknowledge aliens on this planet. It's a moment some space enthusiasts have been waiting for.
Recognizing the need for action and answers, I founded Americans for Safe Aerospace. We believe that UAP represent an urgent priority for both aerospace safety and scientific inquiry.
And while these particular specimens may not be especially convincing, it could be the beginning of worldwide acceptance of life beyond Earth.
Okay. Think of every, I guess, alien movie you've ever seen, and then you can just insert whatever line right there that you'd like to, because I have found
I'm a skeptic.
that things that are discovered or whatnot appear to be discovered after we already have evidence from a sci-fi movie of sorts that was put out there. Like in this instance, I would say those look exactly like E.T.
Well, that wasn't even a sci-fi. That was just, whatever.
Whatever qualifies as sci-fi, I guess, these days. Yes. My question really is, who cares? I guess if they are that old,
hundreds of years old, they say.
Like that part of have they just been waiting to be discovered, and now the aliens currently living out there are just going to attack us? Like why?
So where were they before this?
They were discovered in Peru.
Okay, so there's no evidence anywhere else in the world, and all of a sudden, Mexico says, "Hey, let's
just needs some good attention. They
let's
want some
show
good.
this."
They want some PR right now. I'm not sure. I'm a skeptic, but I also am not a science kid.
I am too, but I always believe there's a reason for every action like this one. There's a story behind the story, and so what are they trying to do? What is their goal for this? They're certainly not just saying, "Hey, we need to raise awareness. We found this. Let's talk about. Let's find more aliens." No, there's something they're doing. It's money is usually involved. I'll just throw that out there and just ask all of us to be discerning and use wisdom when we talk about these things. There's a lot we don't know. Keep trusting God, read the Bible, and understand the times, because when these things start happening, it's very interesting. There's always a reason behind it.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up Educated for this week. Now, don't forget, you can catch Educated on the go by simply subscribing to the podcast on your favorite platform. And if you are in a cheery mood, maybe not a downer mood, but a cheery mood, then head over there and leave us a 5-star review for this banter that we...
Or at least 4.5.
4.5. I'm a solid A- student. Always was. Let's get that.
All right. For Katie and myself, thanks for watching, listening, sharing on social media, please, and for supporting the show. And until next week, stay educated, America.